Hello. Oh, you're muted by default, just FYI, which is fine. Actually, you got to grab my lunch. Hold on one second.
There we go. Good morning.
Morning.
How you guys doing?
What's up?
Good, thanks.
No.
It's a good looking beard you got there, Nate.
Thanks, man. Hey, I have Pasquale. Is that how you say it? I have your units. They showed back up today.
Okay, cool.
They said the barcode was unreadable. Here, let me show. Oh, I think I covered it, but the barcode was a little unreadable, but there was a tracking number, and I'm like, whatever.
Weird.
They just done that. But
What's up, Biller?
you guys are muted by default when you won't get in. Just FYI. Sorry.
Yo,
What's up, Biller?
how's it going? I love the lighting over there, Lance.
Thanks. I'm gonna go live on Twitch right after this.
Oh, good.
No,
Like a
I'm not.
casting couch.
Yeah. Let me get my girl over there. Look at that cute ass baby.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up, Willis?
What's up, Willis?
How you doing?
What's
Hey,
what's
Willis.
your assistant's name today, Willis?
This is Aiden. He's helping
Hi,
me figure
Aiden.
out the best time to sell my Dogecoin.
Oh, gotcha.
I hope you made a lot on that shit.
I didn't make some good decisions.
Mhm.
Yeah, I made some bad decisions on GameStop, but I know someone who made 600 grand in like 2 days.
Holy fucking cow.
God.
Wow.
Boom operator on my TV show.
Jeez.
Impressive.
How much money do you have to make in a single day while you're on set before you just say, I love you guys. See you later. I'm going home. $500,000 in one day?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to take more than that to just be like, peace out.
Well, I mean, for just one job. I would gladly bounce one job if I made $500,000 in a day.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. Wait, is that Jamie? That's not Jamie.
No, that's me.
I was about to
Me.
say, like,
I'm using Jamie's account.
it looks so weird.
Jamie's got a beard. Bear, come here. Bear. Bear, come here.
Yo, what's up, guys? I'm making some breakfast right now, but I will be joining you on my computer later. Just
Sweet.
listening in for this first part.
What's up, Isaac?
What up, Isaac?
How's it going, Willis? How's it going,
Hey guys, it's Q.
Okay.
Just giving everybody some time to hop in.
Wait, so Nathan, right? You're using James again? Oh, that's what you look like. That's great. Hey, man. Hey, I have a question for you before we get all
Yes.
started. A few months ago, you posted something where you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
You did the biostat, like you just kept bouncing nodes around.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta ask you about that because that's super impressive what you did.
I mean, it was the most impressive part, I think, was hiking up to the top of a mountain with a combo stand and a sandbag.
But that's what I
That was
mean.
just-
Like, how did you do that? Like, how?
Well, here, hold on one second.
Damn it! I should have sold.
Yeah, you're right.
Dropping.
I should have sold Ether 2 days ago.
Yeah.
It's all coming back.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
I think 2,000 Ether within the month. If Chinese New Year doesn't fuck us again. What does Willis think about Chinese New Year?
Are you selling those? I have those in my Amazon cart, but like I just haven't pulled the trigger yet.
You talking to me on these?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can sell these. I mean, I don't really get great deals compared to what you can find on Amazon. I mean, Ubiquity doesn't really like the distribution model at all. So you have to get like a good price, you have to buy it at a shipping container at a time.
Got it.
It's ridiculous. But
So really, that's like a point to point, right? And I saw that
Yeah.
it's like 24 dBi and 5
Mhm.
gigahertz only.
Yeah, it's 5 gigahertz with the dome. You can put the cover on it for interference issues, to help limit that. But I didn't need that because I was in the middle of nowhere in the mountains where there was almost zero RF. So
But
it
then
was
after you
fine.
reach the point to point, do you still put like another access point there?
Yeah. So then it's like a wireless bridge. So the last one in the chain, I just come out of that and I went into some Ubiquity access points. So just one of these guys with the directional antenna. I pointed it towards my set and I was good to go. So
Wow. All right.
all right. I guess we got a few people here. We can start going. What do you guys want to start with? Do you guys want to start with Slate or do you want to start with Ruckus or
I vote for Ruckus.
Ruckus?
I think most of us have gone through the Slate setup already, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting some questions recently that are kind of clearly some people are confused, but yeah, we'll see. What am I doing? Getting my other guy in here. Let's see. Yes. Cool. All right, so I will do. Really? That was dumb. There we go. All right. So so the Ruckus, if you get it factory default and it already has Unleashed on it, if it hasn't been factory defaulted on the unit, if you can see me over here, there's the reset button right here. You just have to push and hold it for about 10 seconds. And then this light, which is, let's see if you guys can see that. So this light right here will start flashing red. And it'll so this is the thing about the Ruckus, depending upon what firmware was originally installed on it, it'll do different things. But if it's got Unleashed, it'll just kind of do like a red, and then it'll kind of do like an orange and then red. But that's enough to start the factory reset. And then it takes probably about a minute and a half to 2 minutes for that to come up. I like to use, terminal. I run a ping on it, which apparently it's not seeing for some reason right now. Oh, I have the Slate plugged in too, which might be messing with it. Okay. I'm gonna have fun. You guys are gonna see me troubleshoot. It'll be great. So I use PoE to do this, but not everybody. I mean, most of you guys are probably going to end up using the 12-volt port, I'm guessing, but. All right, so I'm going to let that boot up again. That shouldn't just for funsies. So what do you guys have? Have you guys used Ruckus? Anybody here?
I haven't set mine up yet.
Yes,
bought it.
absolutely.
I haven't
used
bought
it
it yet,
quite a bit.
actually. I'm still Ubiquity.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm using slates on a link currently.
I'm using a Amplify Alien, but I got your Ruckuses.
Nice. So if you guys don't know, anybody who doesn't know, the /24 that you see here, that's like it's a different notation for creating a subnet mask in the router. You can just put in, the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and then that, and it should work fine. But yeah. All right, let's see if this is coming up. There it goes. All right, so let's give this a shot. So this is what you get if it's not fully booted, at least in Chrome. I don't think Safari or Firefox tell you as much. But connection refused, meaning it's there, it's responding, but it's not fully booted up yet. So just seeing here, well, we'll just give it a minute. I think my boot time from when it first starts responding to ping is 120 seconds. I don't know, 140 seconds. So what I do usually is here, as I just do this from the time that I reboot, and then I just count the sequence number because it's 1 second. And when I get to about 140, that's when I know that it should be good to go, which it's not. And just all you guys, you're muted by default, but if you want to pop in and ask a question at any time, please do.
In your ping on your terminal, that TTL is coming from the Ruckus, TTL 64.
Mm-hmm. This is the reply. Yeah, this is coming from the Ruckus unit right now. I was when I first started redoing the firmware on these, well, the ones that I was getting in and shipping out, I kind of freaked out. I was like, man, these are all bricked. There's something wrong with them. But I, just realized I had to be patient. Because I figured once it first started responding, that would be enough. Also, let's do this.
Takes a bit longer than the Ubiquity even.
Well, just on the first boot, typically, I think it's faster after you set it up. Also, because I've done so many of these, this is also probably freaking out a little bit just because of cookies and whatnot, that it's saved. All right, so this is normal. I feel like, is everybody familiar with the authentication errors that you get when you're logging into a new network device?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's pretty much you click on show advanced and you proceed. Various versions of that per browser. Great. So you don't really need to change any of this here. You just go typical install. So these are if you're like, you have like a CommScope, I think it's a CommScope account, or if you have a server that is essentially hosting a configuration, you can do this, which is not what we're doing. Typical install, you can give, this is the network name, not the Wi-Fi name. If that makes, so if you had multiple sites, like in a commercial environment, you had this company and that company, you could name them. For non-mesh, most people are going to be meshing. You don't need to change any of this whatsoever. Next, so this is where things can get a little funky, at least the Ruckus that I've experienced so far. A lot of people I know wanted to do manual assigning here. Manual assigning didn't work out so well for me. What happened is that, so there is a configure me 136980, which is like a serial number, probably part of the MAC address of the unit. Yeah, it's the MAC, the last characters of the MAC address of the unit. So you can do this all by going to the Wi-Fi. I prefer not to, just because a wire is kind of more reliable, more consistent. But what happened was, if I went to manual and I gave this a manual IP address and finished setting it up from here, what happened was is that it wouldn't actually get rid of this configure me default Wi-Fi network, and it wouldn't replace it with the one I configured in the wizard. So to avoid that, I'm going to go gateway mode because I don't happen to have another DHCP server plugged into my cart right now. And what this will do is this will make sure that it's essentially its DHCP server is on. This is the router for the network in this example. If you have a router on your network already, you can just go DHCP mode and go next, and which we'll see all that stuff here in a second. And then it'll just pick up an IP address from your router. But for now, I'm just going to do this. I want my network to be 10.10.1.1 and 255.0. Does everybody understand how subnet masks work in like a basic concept? Should I go over that real quick? No? Yes? No?
Go
come back
ahead.
to
Yeah,
this.
I'd love to hear about how you're using it in this specific instance, or just
Okay.
like the applicability of it right now.
Sure. I mean, so Ruckus essentially defaulted to 255.255.0.0. So essentially, this is a mask for indicating what IP addresses to include in that router's domain. And the numbers in each octet, as this is called, because this translates to a binary 8 bits, 010101. That's why it's called an octet. But so if you have 0.0, that means anything that's 10.10.x.x is included in your subnet, which for most of our purposes, you only want to have variables in the last octet. So, and that's the way you see most, private networking, LAN networking, is it's 192.168.0.x or .1.x. So you're only caring about that last set of the address in terms of what's in your domain. So that's, and that's usually what our application is going to be. So I just changed it to 255.255.255.0 for those purposes. WAN IP address, we're probably not going to care about this for the most part. If you're going to use the Ruckus as your actual gateway connecting to an internet connection, then this is something that you might care about. But for most applications here, I don't think we're going to care. So then this is your LAN side. Okay, I want my LAN side to be, okay, it's following in with what I did here, 10.10.1.2. And here you'll see that it picked an ending IP address in .8. So I'm just going to say, no, I want to do .1.254. 254 being the last usable IP address in that subnet, a /24 subnet. So you can say, this doesn't really matter because most of you guys are probably going to set static IP addresses on your cameras and such. But this is just how long does somebody have ownership of a particular IP address before it tries to get a new one, is all that is. Great, here, this is where you name your network. And cool. Give it a password. Cool. And then this is the administration, of the actual unit. Put in your password. Oh my God, I can type. This typically won't really work because you're not going to be connected to the internet, and it won't be able to use the SMTP server to actually send emails to recover login credentials. So it's kind of worthless, in our case. Great, and finish. Unleash, start, perfect. And then you will see over here, I mean, lights are gonna start doing things. So just in terms of like the booting up, this is like the power light. The other one is like control, I believe is what that's supposed to be. So if you have a power light but no control light when you're first booting up, then yeah, either it's not available yet or there may be an issue with your unit. Hopefully not.
Have you had issues with units, fairly frequently?
No, not so far. I just had the ones, like I said, that were on. So I had some that were previously controlled by a zone director, which for Ruckus, that's like a central controller, kind of like Ubiquity's Cloud Key, if you're familiar with that. And then they have a different type of controller. I forget what it's called, but it essentially completely disables the web GUI. So you have no way to get into it to go from the previous type of firmware to the Unleashed type of firmware via the GUI. So I had to figure that out and then get in. Then you have to do it via SSH in the terminal. And that was a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it worked. So yeah. So now we've changed the IP address here of the router to 10.10.1.1. So this IP address is no longer going to work for us at all. So even though it says, hey, it's rebooting, there's this progress bar. It means absolutely nothing really. So you can close out of that. And then let's see, come back to system preferences, and it is running a DHCP server. So I go back, say, using DHCP, and typically I'll know that I'm good when I get a valid IP address. You'll see here in a second, for those of you that don't know what an invalid IP address looks like, but it'll come up here in a second. 169.254. If you ever get 169.254, it means that you're connected to something electrically, but it's not giving out a valid DHCP address. So either DHCP isn't functioning, it's not fully booted, or DHCP is completely turned off. So then you need to set a static IP address. Like in the case of the Slate, you need to set a static IP address to set it up initially. So as soon as we get a real IP address here, which should be 10.10 something or other, then we know we're good to go. Hopefully that's not conflicting. It is conflicting. That's awesome. So this will be interesting, and this will actually be a good exercise, I think. All right, should be coming up soon. So you see I have, well, error did just flash, but. So in theory, you should have the actual, this is like the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz radio light should be popping up here shortly.
Hey, Nathan, really quick.
Yes.
I just flashed the new Unleashed firmware onto this AP that I'm booting up right now. And so I'm just kind of working back through that process really quickly. You do enable mesh point at your system number 1 start to setting up the Ruckus.
Yeah, so the first one, so your head node, yeah, you configure it and you click meshing, yes. That turns it on.
Is there anything important to write in the SSID and the passphrase for that, or to just leave it as it comes so it's like mesh?
No, yeah, don't change that configuration.
Okay,
of those fields in the configuration. Perfect. All right, so it looks like my network is now up, and here you see I got a valid IP address 10.10.1.157. Now we're probably going to have a problem here, because the Wi-Fi that my Hackintosh is connected to is also 10.10.1, and so is this. So I'm going to try and get to the Ruckus, right? And so I'm going to create a new private browsing window. I'm going to go 10.10.1.1. Let's see what it takes me to, and it takes me to my Ubiquity Dream Machine. So I'm going to quit screen sharing here for a second so I can pop off of my Wi-Fi. Yeah. So hold on one second. I'm going to fix this.
Can you field questions right now, Nate, or you want to do that first?
No, please. Give me
It's just
questions.
more a piggyback on that, checking the mesh button there. So I got the first AP you sent, and obviously the second one didn't come until just recently. So the first time I set that up, I didn't check that mesh option, but I can still check it just afterwards, right? Now that I have the second one up and connected, or does it even need to be checked?
I know that you can't uncheck it once it's been checked in the main firmware, but I don't know if you can enable it after the fact. So that may be a thing that you have to set up at the time of, we can check that in a second here.
Okay.
Yeah, I may have to reset this unit.
Yeah, whenever we get to that part.
Oh yeah. That's super fun. All right, so I might have to factory reset this guy. Anybody else have any questions at the moment about how that's working? Negative, okay. Wait till this guy boots.
Sorry. Yeah, quick question if you've got a second.
Yes, go.
So let's talk about the internal gateway. Basically, the way that we have been using these in the field, we're pretty much always dishing up from a DHCP server, be it a slate feeding from a modem into a Ruckus. But basically, like, if I'm always feeding my Ruckus DHCP, I should have the internal gateway disabled.
Yeah, and then just on that main setup field, you're going with the DHCP option instead of the static option or the gateway mode.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So yes, if you have DHCP on your network, which I have, if I had my slate configured for that, which is also plugged in here, if I had that configured, we could use my slate as my DHCP server in this example, which I know some people are using like TP-Link as a DHCP server or whatever. It doesn't really matter what you're using for DHCP, but.
Cool.
All right, I've got another unit here that I'm setting up instead, so we're gonna go through that whole process again. I hope you guys don't mind.
Hey, Nate, so in this case, are you changing the IP for the Ruckus?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is instead of waiting for that other one to factory reset, I have another one that's already reset. I'm just booting same time, just same amount of time to boot really. But yeah, I was just going to change, instead of using 1010.1.x, I was going to use 1010.2, just so I'm in a different subnet than what my local network is. Same thing, like if you're setting something like this up and you're at a camera house that has the same subnet range, then you're going to run into the same kind of problem once you configure it. So like this is one of the reasons why we were going with 10.10.1, is because there aren't any real default IP addresses that use that scheme. So like if you go to a camera house, they're probably going to be using 10.0.0 if they're on a cable network like Comcast or something similar, or if you're using like DSL or something from off the shelf router like Linksys, it's going to be 192.168.1 or .0.x. So that's just a way to kind of, we were doing that to avoid the issue of conflicting like I just did. But of course I use that scheme for most things I do. So I set up the network here at our shop to use 10.10.1. So I was doing that here and ran into the same problem. So sorry about that. Let's see.
I have one question.
Go for it.
I'm still driving, so you cannot see me. But isn't the default IP always available, even if you enable gateway?
Is it always what?
Available. So if you just disconnect everything, all the cables, Ethernet cables, and restart them router, then you must get the default IP address from the router.
Right. So are you saying if I factory reset the router?
No, despite of what you have done right now, if you just
Oh,
unplug
yes.
everything, yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. My networks was being a little bit, that's what I was trying to do here. But I'm trying to get it back to a different IP address so I can be connected to the internet on my Wi-Fi card on my computer while simultaneously showing the setup. So in this example, I have to change it. But yes, I was able to get to the interface screen when I was disconnected from the other conflicting network, if that's what you're asking, what it sounded like.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go through this again. So for those that I glossed over this, so the mesh name, the ESS ID, and the mesh passphrase, you do not need to change this. Great, so I'm going to go back to gateway mode. We'll go 10.10.2.
Hey, Nate, are you rolling this, by the way?
Yes, I am.
Love it.
Cool.
Some of us are on their 4th or 5th beer and might not remember.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I've got some of those in the fridge. Great.
Dude, I know that I'm gonna come across the passphrase and I'm gonna type in password as usual.
Is password long enough?
It's more than 8 characters, right? Password with zeros
Oh.
rows.
Oh, there you go. It is 8 characters exactly. All right, so this is rebooting. Super fun. Sorry, I waste time, but. In the meantime, real quick, I'm gonna grab a bite of my lunch because I was not able to eat my lunch yet. So stand by 1 second. And just in case, because I know this is one of the most fundamental questions that I've gotten. It's not this part of this, but people setting up like video hubs and stuff like that. They said, oh yeah, the unit has an IP address of, 192.168.0.8. And they said, so that's what I set my computer to. Just in case it's unclear, duplicate IP addresses do not work. Everything needs to have a unique IP address. Just in case. It feels like everybody here knows that, but. Did anybody have issues on the Slate document with with any setup steps other than maybe like the firewall stuff while I'm thinking about it?
Not really.
Oh, good.
I mean, we talked yesterday. I'll test it tomorrow, but I've yet to get it to work.
Now you haven't done the Slate setup portion of the video yet, or you're not doing that today?
No, I will. I mean, I plan on hanging out for a couple hours just for people popping in and out, but so no, I haven't gotten the Slate yet.
Okay, I had like 2.4 versus 5 gigahertz Slate question, but I guess I'll save that for the Slate when we get to it.
I'm interested in that too.
I mean, I'm waiting for this thing to boot, so fire away.
I just don't have it in front of me too. I just know that like when I've gone through the video, I've gone through the document, and you say in the document it doesn't matter if you're going to set it up to 2.4, you're going to set it up to 5. going through the process to the very end when you're like, okay, I'm going to set the slate up so that it's connected to this network. It's going to connect to this camera. At the moment, I have to like choose whether that slate's going to only have 5 gigahertz or 2.4. I haven't been able to figure out so that both radios are firing and I'm getting both options, or am I not supposed to have that in this?
Well, I
tutorial?
guess well, that's not in the tutorial. It's not.
Oh,
You're right.
okay.
But I guess what I would say is that for cleanliness of RF, you should pick one and stick with it.
Okay. I have already. So I just good to know. I was like, is this a gotcha that's going to get me later that I don't have both? But that's fine. Then it's already set up.
That's strange. Okay. All right. Well, that works. Perfect. So then here you go, admin, and then the password that you set, unleash. Great. So this is the interface. For those who haven't seen it, internet is disconnected as expected because I don't have any internet. And then Wi-Fi networks, there's my DIT network you can see there. And this is where you'll see multiple access points, right? So this is the summary of all of your stuff that's happening. This is, I'm sorry, not the access points, the network. So you can actually create multiple SSIDs if you wanted to. So you could like create your DIT network, you could create a camera control network, you could create, you know, your whatever, different SSIDs to accomplish different things, to compartmentalize people differently, you know, if you needed to, which, oh, some may not. So then from here, you know, that's your Wi-Fi network. So you can also, this is your clients table to see who's connected, who's not. This is going to be the main part that you guys are probably going to use for meshing. So here's your Ruckus access point. Ah, interesting. I have not seen that before on this machine. It might be just that my cable's not great, or that it's powering it with 802.3AP. So that's the power over Ethernet specification. It'll power with both of them, but there's AF and AT. One of them is lower power than the other. I believe AF is the newer one and is higher power. Okay. I'm just resetting this other one here so that we can mesh to it. So with the guide that Jason made, he had it such that you can just say, hey, I want to hook up the mesh node and link it just by using the PoE port on the unit, which for those that haven't seen it, there are 2 ports here, 2 Ethernet ports. The kind of one in the middle here is the PoE port, and the other one is like an outbound LAN port. And then there's obviously the DC plug port right there. So you would just go PoE cable from your main unit to your secondary unit, and then it should adopt it into the system, and then it would show up in here. However, since I'm powering my units with PoE, I don't have that ability. So for me to do that, I'm going to come down to admin and come down to mesh. And so this is the main mesh unit. And then I can say, hey, zero touch mesh means I want to just add units that show up that I see the MAC address for. So I can say zero touch, and with the serial number. So I add, and then on my unit, I'm assuming this means, you know, I haven't done this part before, so we'll find out if they mean the serial number or if they mean the actual MAC address. I'm going to go with the serial number since that's what it says, 7703.
So Nate, we
Yes.
could not theoretically add a link or a TP into this as another point, right?
not as an additional mesh
Right.
point, but you can use it as a roaming wireless bridge. Well, no, I shouldn't even say that. Yes, you could as a wireless repeater, but it is not like a mesh into this system. So
Gotcha.
it's not manageable from Ruckus, and it's not truly a mesh radio. So like a TP-Link with stock firmware would only ever be like a one-to-one repeater. So it would say, which access point am I connected to? Is it the one on your cart, or is it the roaming one? Whichever one that is, it's locked to that access point, and then it will repeat that signal, and that's it. So otherwise, you know, it won't roam access points, and it's not manageable from your main
Gotcha.
interface here.
So Nate, if you
So-
did the PoE to PoE connection for your second AP, and then it obviously it shows up in the list, does that automatically mean it's meshed, or is it just being seen differently?
Yeah, no, it should be, it should have mesh enabled essentially, so that it, so with mesh enabled, if it's got a wire plugged in, it shouldn't need to mesh. So if it's, if that makes sense, if you're physically connected to your network, then there's no reason for meshing. But if you are not physically connected to your network, then yeah, it should automatically mesh.
Yeah, I set it up through the cable. I pulled the cable. It still stayed connected on my list as an AP. So that's safe to assume that it's mesh. And I never, this goes back to what I was saying before, I never enabled the mesh button. I'll have to test later this week when I go back to on prep. Yeah, but when I got it and I set it up, it's connected, and it's connected wirelessly. It'll stay connected wirelessly too. So I'm just kind of, I guess it's zero touch enabled, or
maybe that might be part of it. So I'll preface this with saying I am not an expert at Ruckus. I'm more of a networking guy in general. Ruckus is newer to me as of when I first started saying, you know what, fine, I'm convinced. So, all right, so this should be adopted. Perfect. So it showed up. So in this, I wasn't holding it up here, but so I had factory reset this, and it was blinking with the power and the CTL light blinking, and then I put it in here into the Ruckus network. It rebooted on its own. I didn't tell it to reboot anywhere. It rebooted on its own, came up, and now I've got the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz lights on here, so should be good to go. So in theory, you know, I can hop on with my phone to one of these. So find DIT network. And let's see, this is on the same physical network right now, but I could power it otherwise. Wonder if I have something to power it with. I'll have to see if I have something that I can power that with, but to see if it's truly meshing. Boom. Okay, so connecting my, great. So then let's see. Boom. So now the master access point has me on it. Cool. So that's, I mean, I don't have something to necessarily make this second unit truly mesh at the moment, but I can probably work on it if you guys would like me to. Otherwise, I mean, I feel like we can move on to setting the slate up. I don't know. What do you guys think? Or if you guys have questions about any of this.
Yeah. Hey, question, Nathan. So I guess this would be a first for me using these as mesh points per se, but I am like really interested in your experience with single access point usage and like effectiveness and like best use case, sort of what have you seen from this unit in the field, and like what sort of range can you expect from one AP, and like, you know, what to optimize this device to perform well?
Well, this is where I would love Damon or Ian Edwards to hop in here, because those guys have a lot more practical field experience with these than I do. But from Jamie's, so, you know, I've talked with Jamie quite a bit, and his experience with these, you know, he essentially mounted this flat on the back of his follow van that he was in, and then he mounted one flat on the back of the, I think it was probably on an arm car. And, you know, very, very kind of point to point directional, as opposed to, you know, this, like his mounts are showing you, or straight like this or this. But so he was like this, and just 1-to-1, he was getting, man, I'm trying to think what he was actually getting, but I mean, he was getting a decent distance in the follow car with no real issue with dropouts or anything. And his biggest thing versus, say, Ubiquiti was that he didn't have to go in and manage it and really fine tune it. Oh, we should go over that though, because you can do that in here. And somebody was asking me about it. I forget who it was. Is it, let's see, yeah, it's in here. So if you go, and nope, it's not here.
Nate, I did notice that Jamie mounted it flat against the back of the follow van, but I thought these were omnidirectional. Does that make a difference?
Yeah.
Well, they're omni-ish. So hold on, let me see if yeah, let me see if I can find it.
So you mean like PP shaped pattern?
Let me see if I can find it here.
Lance, from my understanding, they're mounted on the ceilings. Like that's the most like installation.
I see.
And so they are in like a 180 sort of down hemisphere.
I see. So the angle of that mount that we're doing is conducive to how it operates.
Yeah, so it's kind of a compromise between like a wall and a ceiling mount, because so if you can see here in this diagram I have up, so this is looking essentially top down at a unit, right? And so see, here's the radiation pattern of the various antennas in here. So this unit has a bunch of different antennas. It's not just like a single antenna. And so that's why you see like, here's this one over here, and here's this blob over here. So this is your top down. This is going to be elevation. So that's, I think this is a probably a side view. So like if this is the top and this is the bottom, this is the side, this is what it looks like. And then this is, sorry, other way around. This is probably looking top down, and this is looking from the side. And so you can see kind of its radiation bubble. That makes sense. It's fairly omnidirectional versus, say, some of the Ubiquiti radiation patterns, which you can see. Oh, no. Like more directional antennas. So you can see some of these. Let's see, they're top down. I want to see these. So like this is some of their dome units. So you can see like they've got fairly omnidirectional, but then like you get into, say, the mesh units. So like this is the in-wall units. Here's their directional antenna for the mesh units, like this guy right here. And this is very, you can see this is very directional, you know, and it's not very omni, but it's higher power is the theory. Is that it's higher power out with a directional antenna. But yeah, these Ruckus, you know, it doesn't show me really what the dB is that you can expect out of this for this, you know, what the distance is here, but yeah, so that's your kind of, that answers the directionality question there a little bit.
Yes, thanks.
And I'm trying to remember, is it here? No, might be. Trying to find the wireless channels. I'm trying to remember where it is. No.
Nate, you haven't done car to car yet with it, have you?
I have not personally. I don't do much of that in my market. I mean, almost all completely commercial stuff, all stationary crap. But I would love to.
If would I don't know if you talked to Jamie about it. Did he do both panels like flat facing each other?
Yeah. Well, so he had. I think he had 2 Ruckus on the camera vehicle, and then he had one on the front and one on the back of the follow van. Okay. So he had 2 that were kind of doing this kind of a thing, you know, doing an angle off of that. And then he had, like I said, one on the hood of the follow van and one on the rear door of the follow van. And that's how he was kind of getting himself fully covered. And because the antenna patterns are so good on the Ruckus, that he was essentially enveloping the whole van. So even if the van went and moved in front, he didn't lose any connectivity. I think, he probably had one off the front of the camera vehicle as well. I think he
would that just be achievable, like making one the access point and the other 3 as mesh points?
Yeah, exactly. So your head node, so the one on the van, one of the 2 on the van was his head node. Although both of the ones in the van, I mean, they could be mesh nodes, but they're already wired. So so they'll mesh as well if they don't have a good wire connection. So with like point to multi-point radios that are mesh like that, yeah, they'll take a wire preference, and then they'll go with the best route to the head node. I am trying to remember where the stupid radio selection is. There is a spot where you can actually choose what. Man, I am trying to remember where it is. Oh, it's on the access point. I'm a doofus. So on the individual access point, you edit the access point, and you can say here, hey, I want to override with this particular radio, or if you want to do it for your whole network, you go to summary, and you say, I only want these channels used. So for example, somebody talked to me the other day, they were having issues with this specifically with the WCU. They had a WCU and it just wasn't working as soon as he turned on his Ruckus stuff. And that's because the WCU's channel was overlapping right in channel 6 of Wi-Fi. And if you guys don't have it, let me see, was it this one? It's going to load this. Okay, never mind. I was looking for the antenna, the RF. You know that document that with the different RF patterns? I wonder if I have it here. Yes, this one right here. So this is an invaluable tool if you guys don't have it, especially for 2.4, because this is all your wireless control stuff and where it lands versus where your Wi-Fi is, right? So Wi-Fi is the green here. So he was sitting right in, he was on Airy channel 3, which was, or no, Airy channel 10, I'm sorry. He was on Airy channel 10, which is kind of right in this channel 6 range. And his Ruckus units were, one of them was in channel 6 and the other one was hopping around between, which they will hop around if you let them, which is fine, just as long as you're making sure you're not interfering. So same thing applies to interference with on 5 gigahertz with teradek stuff. So if you can coordinate what you're doing with your teradeks and deselect the teradek channels that you don't want to be in, if you're going to be using 5 gigahertz for your network, which if you're only doing camera control is not really necessary, because 5 gigahertz gives you the bandwidth that teradek needs for pushing, video, but just camera control is like tiny amounts of throughput that you need. So if you don't need 5 gigahertz, you may as well just kill, your 5 gigahertz entirely. But so what I had him do is I had him just deselect 4 through 7, because if you look back here at this guy, so fourth, it doesn't really show you here, but the main Wi-Fi channels that are used in 2.4 are 1, 6, and 11. Anything other than that is kind of worthless, because they really overlap in a lot of regards. Not specifically here, but they do. They don't really show it in this diagram, but they do. So if I just got rid of 4 through 8, and that kind of gave him a wide berth for his wireless focus stuff to not interfere. Any questions about this stuff, even though I've been jumping around like a crazy person? Cool.
So just sort of summarizing that, it's like ideal mounting positions are going to be ones that take advantage of the antennas inside of the Ruckus units, which are most likely going to be like, that sort of omni, directional, where it's like pointed down, sort of something similar to this or this. And then really like what you're saying with the Wi-Fi networks is 1, 6, and 11 are going to be your sort of go-tos if
on
you're
2.4.
On 2.4. And then, do you have any experience using this in 5 gigahertz or to like do things related to like a high, like, I guess I'm trying to think of like high data situations where you might be like, for instance, streaming or downloading over wireless connection to this AP. Would you recommend like potentially even disabling the 2.4 radio?
I mean, you could, if you have no use for it. Like if you're doing an on-set network and you're doing streaming via Serve Pros or like a cube to other people on set, yeah, you'd probably want to use 5 gigahertz for that and not 2.4. 2.4 could probably handle 2 to 3 people streaming on 2.4 at a time without any sort of like buffering or those kinds of issues, whereas 5 gigahertz is going to be a lot more capable for that. So just keeping in mind balancing those channels with your teradek, because teradek is only 5 gigahertz. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely use 5 gigahertz if you're trying to host video streaming to on-set people, vanities, art department, whoever. Yeah, and 5 gigahertz would work great for that.
Yeah. Copy. And so like that section that you were changing the network parameters for all radios was under clients, or excuse me, you were under access points.
Access points, yeah. So you click on summary and edit, and that's where you're changing the global channel selections, available channel selections here. So
Gotcha.
if you deselect every single 2.4 channel, then it should kill the 2.4 radio entirely.
Gotcha. And just,
oh no, it wants 1. Let me see. There's probably that doesn't kill the radio entirely. So I got to figure out where that is. I haven't found out where that is, but I'm sure I can find it.
But in theory, like somebody connecting to this access point, I guess I'm just trying to like understand the total bandwidth of like, the AP as a whole. And maybe this is, a conversation for a different point, but basically, if I am using my 2.4 radio, if, that could be like a sort of bottleneck on my AP. Like, is that a point where somebody could receive like less than optimal performance?
So you're saying if you have, if it's just one radio that somebody's connected to, could they? I mean, potentially, but so with 5 gigahertz, I mean, that's going to come into balancing your data rate on your stream for your on-set users. I mean, in general, they're probably not going to need, zero compression, low latency video. So you want to go probably a low bit rate stream, something that you would be getting like from crappy cell connection on Netflix or something like that. So if you take in your Serve Pro or your Cube and you squash that data rate down, then you allow for a lot more room for a lot more users. So yeah, if you need probably, I'd say more than 30 users on that, I mean, I would make sure that you're like, down at like, meg to meg and a half a second for your data rate, a megabit per second, meg and a half per second.
I think what you're saying is manage the bandwidth and then, optimize it for the AP, as opposed to try and get the AP optimized to do an insane amount of data.
Yeah, because I mean, there are inherent limitations to wireless and what radios can do in given frequencies, right? So the reason that we use 5 gigahertz is because it is the wavelength is actually narrower, and you can actually fit more in a particular channel width. You can fit more streams in more amount of data. I'm not doing great at explaining this part, but you can, because it's a smaller wavelength, you can actually fit more streams in a given channel width at a time. So versus 2.4, which is the wavelength is much wider. So if you want to have 5-10 streams at a time, you're taking up a lot more of your channel's bandwidth because your channel is only so wide.
Gotcha. Cool.
If that made sense. Sorry, that was not the best explanation.
No. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. I think that, some of the applications that I'm looking at are trying to get the absolute most out of the fewest possible access points. And so it's incredibly valuable for me to know sort of where to put my, money as far as, thinking about how to set up my networks and how to like make sure that I'm optimized for, the smallest
for what
possible.
you're doing. Yeah,
for what I'm doing. Exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
So sweet. And then just talking a little bit to sort of my last question is, oh shit, it's leaving me. I'll ask it later, I'm sure.
No problem. I did just find the radio. So if you want to, for a given SSID, so I clicked on my DIT network here, you click on the edit and then you go down to advanced and radio control. That's where you say, put it on 2.4 or 5 gigahertz only. Do you see this here?
Yes.
So right now it's on all radios, in which case, I don't know what algorithm Ruckus uses to kind of push a given client to 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. It probably uses some sort of algorithm evaluating the RSSI, which is the receiving unit, the client's signal strength, essentially the dB level that it's getting. And then that's probably how it evaluates it, but is my guess. And I do know, now Jamie's done this. I haven't figured out where it is yet, but I know that, and this is worth investigating, there are, it's either in network management or Oh, you know, it might be just with the app. Now I don't have this. I don't have it on my phone, but there's a built-in utility called iPerf, which is a great utility for determining what your throughput is from a given point to another point. I wish Jamie wasn't busy because he could probably demo this. But so you can literally go around with your phone and go to a mesh point that you have, you know, wherever close to camera, and you can say, all right, what's my actual throughput to my cart? And you can run iPerf and it'll actually throw packets of data and say, how fast did they get there? You know, or how much bandwidth do you actually have to a given node, or even from node to node, which is a great tool to have. I wish I had it and I could demo here, but I don't, sorry. And that's probably going to be here in remote user control. But I mean, Jamie was talking about hopping on next weekend as well, so maybe we can do some more of that stuff. And I can actually have these set up more in a mesh environment. But yeah.
So Nathan, sort of my last question was, if I set, you know, my access points up and say like I have 4 of them, do I, like, once I start meshing them to one network, that is sort of in essence its own network. And then if I were to like pull an access point away and send it to, let's say, you know, a different job with a different package, does that require a sort of initialization of those base functionalities? Copy, sweet.
Yes, absolutely. So once you have a mesh point connected, if you remove it, it's going to think that, because it's now been configured for your main unit. So like in your access points, I've got, you know, my master right here, and then this is, you know, a remote unit. And if this remote unit powers up and it doesn't see this master unit, it's going to just be like, I don't know what to do. and you probably won't even be able to actually get into the control panel for it, because it's essentially been disabled, because it's supposed to be managed by this master. So in that example, you have to factory reset and set it up with a new master.
So let's say you lose power on your master AP. Does that mean that you should restart all of your APs? Like, let's say your master AP is on a battery plate and you know, that battery needs to like get swapped out or something. Should you restart your other APs after the first one has restarted?
I have not tested that. I haven't tested that. I don't know, but I would doubt it, given what I know of how wireless networks work. The only thing that might be the case is that a client side might want to reacquire its IP address if it's lost its IP address. So that's the thing that I see as most likely, is that you would, if your master goes down, your DHCP server is down, you have a new client who sees your DIT network on a mesh point. They connect to it, and then they don't get a valid IP address. They get a 169.254, and then it says, I can't do anything. So, but even then, with an invalid IP address, it should automatically, as soon as the DHCP server shows up, it should just get an IP address, because it's still looking for that. It's just self-assigned an invalid IP address. So I think that the answer to my question is no, I don't think that you would need to power cycle all of your other mesh units.
Gotcha. So sort of once they are up and the radios are communicating, you should be expecting results.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, if your master goes down, you power back up. I mean, yeah, it seems like these guys don't have the quickest boot time. So
Yeah.
that could be a bit of an issue, but I'll have to think about ways to make that quicker, or to reduce the downtime. Wonder if you could have like a hot swap. Man, freaking Carlos's scatterbox would be perfect on just about everything we do, right?
I've put a shark fin on mine to hot swap on set, because yeah, I was getting killed by the boot time. It was absolutely less than ideal.
Okay, so some sort of shark fin that aggregates 2 batteries, but still giving you 12 volts out. Yeah.
Can I interject for a second, Isaac? What batteries are you using? What are you getting for run times on these?
Dude, that's the other thing too, is that you can put a, absolutely fried Dionic 90 on this thing and it will last, 8 hours. Like if you're just swapping at lunch, like that is more than enough. I mean, I really can't imagine any,
So-
Yeah, I've gone 2 or more days with one fresh Dionic on my AP currently.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I was gonna say these dishes that I set up. I set these up the day before. I have these kind of off-brand Intelitech 230 watt-hour batteries. I left them 3 nodes. One of them was powering 2 radios for almost 2 solid days, and the little light didn't even drop 1 light. So you should be with an ample battery. You should be able to power the thing all day, no problem. In my experience.
I mean, it's almost to the point too where I've considered, the Dionic to be sort of overkill. It's like a USB bank battery could be a cheaper solution and get you, a much lighter overall load on the AP itself.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
The only problem with that is that those are typically 5-volt outs, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have a little bit of an issue. It'd have to be a special one. I think I have one somewhere around here.
I mean, there are those out there that do have 12-volt like DC barrel connectors that you could do that with.
I can't find it right now. And hey, Nathan, the other thing I was going to ask too, let's say we, I set this guy up today with mesh, enabled at the beginning, but it should work fine on its own. And if I don't connect any mesh points to it, correct? And like I could set up all of my other ones the same way, own network, own mesh, what have you. And then as I see fit, if I needed to, I could configure them together at that point to whichever one I wanted to be my master.
Yes. Now, I don't know the specific process, or if you have 2 units that are masters, how you would then, without doing a factory reset, take one of the second masters and make it a mesh of the main unit.
I feel like at that point, I could probably just reset it.
Yeah, that would be my assumption. I haven't attempted that, but yeah, that would be my assumption.
Hey Nathan, quick question. Thanks for doing all this. What are you using for on-camera radios? I went from Rocket M2s to Ultimote. Now I'm thinking about going back to Ruckus. What would you recommend for on-camera radios? I've done color boxes and the TP links. I know slates are popular, but they don't work for all cameras. Is that correct? Because they don't have gigabit?
No, so that's where the TP links don't have gigabit, and they're only 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. The slates do have gigabit. That is the reason for the slate, is because it does have gigabit, and so that works with like the DXL2, I believe, right? That has gigabit, and then any DSMC2 camera that has the back that provides Ethernet.
Okay, copy. Thanks.
So it's
Making my pilot.
Yeah. So which actually brings us into the slate, which I think I'm going to transition over to because there are a couple things I want to talk about on the slate. I'm going to kill these Ruckus units. So I just decided to attempt to change the slate over from, let's see if this is connected. No, I gotta change this. So it's a constant battle making sure that your IP address of your network interface is correct for what you're trying to do. So slate is default.8.1. And why would I do .1? Great. So let's see. Perfect. So this is the base setup of the slate. Now I'm going to go through essentially what I did in the guide, but I'm going to kind of breeze through that a little bit, because what I just did yesterday is I installed vanilla OpenWRT on this thing, and it boots about in half the time of what it, if not faster than what it does with GL.Inet's GUI on here. Give it a password. And for using the slate, this, for what we do, if you're going to keep it with their factory firmware, this whole page is irrelevant, pretty much. We're going to go to more settings, and we're going to go to advanced. And then if you wanted to, you could save this URL as a default instead of just going to the page. Well, let me get through the setups first. This CGI bin-Lucy is kind of like the path that gets you here instead of going to their main GUI first and then coming here. This is your main page. And what do we need to do? Oh, so first, so because the slate doesn't come with all of the software packages that we need to relay, we have to add them. And since my cart isn't connected to the internet, first thing I need to do here is connect it to some network so that I can download the package list and download those from the GitHub repository. So I'm going to scan. And apparently take forever. Cool. So then you join your network, replace the wireless configuration that's important, put in the password. And this is a step that I didn't really emphasize enough in either the video or the written up guide. This firewall zone, if you want to be able to communicate with the camera at any point in time, must be in this green zone. So the camera can communicate out, but you can't communicate into camera if you're using this as an on-camera radio. So green, LAN zone, perfect, submit. Great, now you can see right here that it already sees the BSS ID is the MAC address of the main radio. So you can see it's connected. Great. I don't really need to do anything else here, except if you are using this as a radio that's going to work on a mesh network and want to be able to hop different access points, you got to kill this BSS ID, because what this is doing is this is locking it to the MAC address of the access point. So like this is my master. If you set this up and it's connecting to the master, it then won't roam over to your mesh unit when you're not near that anymore. Doesn't matter in this particular example because I'm only doing this for a network connection. Save and apply. I did say it in the bottom notes, but don't ever just click save. Just do save and apply. It is buggy when I just hit save. So great. And then, so you can see an associated station. That is a good sign right down here. And then I go over to system, software, and you say update lists. And this is going to give us a little feedback right here saying, great, downloading. Apparently some errors, failed to download.
Do you mind if I interject real quick?
Yeah, go.
I'm just curious, if I set this up on a network outside of where I want it to be, like just to get everything installed or whatever, and then I take it to set, do I need to go through this entirely again, or can I just change out just the network?
Yeah, you just need to change the network, and you'll do that by, so you don't have to like reinstall Relay D and all that
Okay.
stuff. Not at all.
Okay.
So I wonder why that didn't get that. Let's try that again. And I will show you exactly what you have to do there. Okay, that's the feedback that we should have gotten. And then in the filter here, you just search for relay D. And there are these, we need both of these. So I install relay D first. And just before I get too far into this, so I am looking at trying to build a version of the firmware that includes relay D already. So all you have to do is just connect to the network and then configure the bridge. You don't actually have to do this step where you connect to a network, download the software package, and then do this. So search for relay D. So that was installed, you can see right there. And then Lucy Proto Relay, this essentially is the GUI. So this allows us to do it in this interface as opposed to just command line. So that's why you need both of these. Great, done. So now we go to interfaces and we want to create a new interface. Well, before I do that, I'm going to copy this IP address. So this is a critical bit. So the IP address, we're going to give the relay bridge an IP address, and it has to be the same as what this wireless interface is. So anyway, add new interface. I'm going to call it repeater bridge, and this is going to be a relay bridge, is the type of protocol that we're using. There are all these others here, but relay bridge is what we want. Hit submit.
Nate, I have a question, but I don't want to disrupt our flow here. So when we get to it,
Okay.
the DHCP renew time, if we could find that. So when you're using, in an instance where you have to use DHCP over X amount of days, I mean, I've done it like, I think 10 days and it hasn't needed to renew, but I couldn't find where to change that lease setting.
In Ruckus or in
the Slate?
In the Slate. Okay, using the Slate as your DHCP server.
Okay. Yes.
Or as an on-camera hop.
Well, the Slate's an on-camera hop, and then the link is the DHCP server. But in like a time where I have to hand that whole thing off to a second unit and just have them plug in and go, and it sticks for like a month, I couldn't find how to change the lease time on that. Should you be using a DHCP?
Got it. So if you're using this as an on-camera hop, this is a DHCP client, not a server. So the server is where you determine the lease time. So if I were using a Ruckus in gateway mode, the Ruckus would be the DHCP server, and so that lease time is determined in the Ruckus interface, not in the Slate. The Slate is completely passive.
When we get back to it, if you could show us how to change the lease time on the Ruckus.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so back in, this is where we're relay bridge. This is where I need to put in that IP address that I just copied, not that. Okay, well, sweet. I'll put that in a second. So we're going to relay between the physical LAN and the new interface from the wireless network, which is WWAN. I'm going to hit save and apply. It doesn't have an IP address, which is fine. I'll fix that in a second. I don't know why it didn't actually copy. 10.10.1.190. Okay, so there's one more step I didn't do here. So you see how this is just no color here? It means it doesn't have any firewall rules applied to it. So 10.10.1.190, perfect. And then firewall settings right here. This is where we choose the green zone. Save and apply. Perfect. So in theory, I'm now connected to my network, which is, in this example, it's a DHCP client. I'm connected to this network and through this repeater bridge. This error will always be there. It's kind of I don't know the details of why that is, but that's expected. So then to test this, to test that you have functionality, you go here and you say DHCP and you hit apply. And then you should get now the new subnet of the host network. You got an IP address. So now to test reachability, you would use a different machine that's also on this network and then ping it, for example. So you go to, like I have my laptop here, which is what my video's on. I could ping it 10.10.1.192. If I get a response, then that means I have full connectivity through the wireless into the LAN port, out of the LAN port to whatever's attached, be that a computer or a camera. Did that make sense? Okay. So now you just did this at your house, and now you need to adjust it for your Ruckus network. So what you have to do is then you say, hey, I need to delete this WWAN right here. I tried just replacing and that didn't work. So I go and delete. Take a second. Oh, I need to go. That's not going to work at all. And the reason that that didn't work is because I was trying to connect to 192.168.8.1, but I just changed over my network settings to use DHCP. So now it was talking to nothing, if that made sense. Common mistake. I do it all the time. So I statically assign myself back to the .8.1, .8.23. Okay. So now if I refresh here, great. So it just sent that command that I just sent to it when I hit refresh. So now the WWAN is gone. And now you go back over to wireless. It's still, the wireless radio is still associated with this network, this SSID, but I deleted the virtual interface that it created when we went through that process. So now you would just scan again. Which takes forever, apparently. And then I would find my network, join, same wizard, replace wireless configuration, password, call it WWAN. You can call it, I mean, you can give this whatever name you want. That's just the default. And choose the correct firewall zone, submit. Great, you have an associated station. Save and apply. And then the only thing that you might have to check after this is back on the relay bridge. Just make sure that it's still bridging the two interfaces, because you'll see back in here when we went on relay bridge, relay between networks, LAN and WWAN. Okay, so it kept it, even though we deleted that interface, since we re-added the exact same interface, it just took it back up. So yeah, so then to test again, now obviously I just connected back to the same network, but that would be the process that you do. Did that make sense? I don't know who was asking that question, but if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And the WWAN is the one that you take the BSSID off, right?
Yeah, so I haven't been just because I'm not meshing anything in this example.
Right.
But yes. Now here's a bit that somebody did want to do. They wanted to give this slate its own static IP address, so that they could say, hey, I've got 4 slates on set. I've got A camera, B camera, C camera, D camera, and give them each a specific IP address that he could notate in his spreadsheet. You can do that. So once you've connected, you've configured the relay bridge, it's going to change because you're going to change what this IP address is. So then you just have to copy that into the relay bridge, which I'll show you in a second. But So you edit your edit your WWAN, and you change it from a DHCP to a static address. It says, "Are you sure?" Yes. You want to switch your protocol, and then this is where there's a lot of information that can maybe get you hung up. But the IP address, just for the sake of it here, I'm just going to make it the same IP address. Net mask is going to be 255. Okay, it picked it up. That's normal. Gateway is going to be the router, 192.168, sorry, 10.10.1.1, this example. Broadcast. Now the broadcast is the last IP address in the subnet. So in this example, since our subnet is this, it means the last IP address is 10.10.1.255. And that is not a valid usable IP address for a device, because that is the quote unquote broadcast address. And you have the subnet address is 10.10.1.0. So you don't care about DNS servers in this example or IP version 6. So then we hit save and apply. So had I changed what the IP actually was from what I got from DHCP, I would need to go into my relay bridge, edit my relay bridge, and then put that new statically assigned IP address into this field right here in the relay bridge. I kept it the same, so it doesn't matter. If you don't do that, you won't get traffic relayed. So that's an important thing when you're switching from your home network to your set network, is to also make sure that you copy whatever new IP address the WWAN has into the repeater bridge settings. That's that basic setup. Anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, go.
So yeah, so I've followed the Slate tutorial and all that stuff, and I was having problems. I was trying to connect like to a Venice at a prep, and I could ping the Slate, but it was never, I could never connect anything through the camera. But now just watching what you were doing, I was, I double checked my interfaces, and I had my repeater bridge was green, my LAN was green, but then my WWAN for my Ruckus was red, and I just switched it over to green. So was that?
That's key.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I changed some notes that I had in the guide to make that bit bolder and red, so that that part is more clear. But yeah, so if the repeater bridge and the WWAN are not in the green zone, that's essentially the firewall saying stuff can go out from the Slate, but can't come in that past the WWAN. So
right.
Yeah.
So on LAN scan I can see it and I can ping it, but then nothing else can really happen.
Right. So because ping is called ICMP packets, those are universally essentially accepted in on pretty much any firewall unless explicitly denied. So like big servers, big websites and stuff like that will do that because a DDoS attack is specifically by saying, let's just ping this website to death. And that's how a DDoS attack works essentially. So unless it's explicitly denied, it will always, the ping will always be allowed. So yeah, you got to be in the green zone on everything.
Got it.
I do want to show you guys though that I was planning to reduce the boot time on the Slate because it's almost like 2.5 minutes. I feel like I installed. I'm going to show you how I do it, but I installed just the vanilla OpenWRT onto the Slate, and it worked phenomenal. It was about 45 seconds to get to the interface for boot, and it is great. So even though I just went through all that, the fundamentals are the same for the vanilla OpenWRT, but I just want to show you the process of installing that firmware. So on the Slate, there's a little reset button on the side, which Unfortunately, right now mine is in pieces because I'm working on stuff. But the little button is on the side. You can't see it, but if you have your Slate, you can probably see it. So to get into what's called U-boot mode, unplug it from power, and then push and hold the reset button while you power on. So when I plug in the USB cable, the power light will come on, and then you'll see the 5 gigahertz light is going to blink, and then the 2.4 light stays on. Then you can let go, and that gets you into U-boot mode. Now on your computer, the default IP address when in U-boot mode is 192.168.1.1. I'm pretty sure. So then you just have to change your IP address of your computer, and then what? That's interesting. Well, I'll have to figure that one out because I already put it on here. No, I don't want that. Well, never mind. I guess I won't be able to show you guys that. But what it does is it comes up with a page that says U-boot, and then there's a little browse button and then an update. And I can give you guys a link to the firmware. So there are two different types of storage. There's NAND flash and then there's NOR flash, which I don't fully understand the differences, but I think one of the reasons why the regular vanilla works better is because it's installed into the NOR flash partition of the Slate, which is, I guess, NOR flash is a lot faster than NAND flash, but it's a binary file as opposed to an image file. So the binary file can't be flashed from the main interface, the main regular OpenWRT interface. So you have to do it from the U-boot, which now that I went back to the regular firmware image, I'm going to have to figure out how to get back to U-boot. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think that's all I have for now, unless anybody else has any questions.
Yeah, I got one more simple question since you have the Slate in your hand.
Yes.
Which one of the antennas is the 5G and which is the 2.4? Do you know?
Let's see. I think that. Let's see. I'm positioning this here. The one, if you're looking at the back of the device, the one closer to the USB port is the 2.4 and 5G antenna. The one closer to the WAN port is the 2.4 only.
Gotcha.
You gonna rip one off or what?
I just know if I need, depending on where it's configured on the camera, just knowing, yeah, if I don't have to have one in the way of something.
Yeah, well, so the one on the closer to the USB port is both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Let's see.
Nate, I'm trying to find the radiation pattern for that Slate. Now that we're thinking about orientation on the camera as a hop. You know, because everyone has assistants that want it to go in the most discrete place, and then they'll fucking turn the antennas to look extremely aerodynamic because that makes the camera better.
Sure it does. Sure. I don't know if GL.Inet has any pattern information on those. That's a good question. I mean, they're pretty generic omnidirectional antennas that are built into the Slate.
But the fact that they fold begs the question of orientation.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Let's see if
You know, just thinking ahead to your favorite exterior location in the desert with mountains and all kinds of occlusion, and you send a camera down a fucking mountain, you're like, oh shit, it still works. It's connected. Right on.
mhm.
Thank God I didn't let the assistants turn the antennas down to make the camera look more aerodynamic.
I mean, this is not going to have anything about their radiation patterns on this thing. I mean, just given that they're omnidirectional antennas, I'll say this: if they're folded down, there's a lot of physical material blocking, you know, the actual pole of the antenna. So up is always going to be up in a way, not right next to the box, is going to be better. That's, I mean,
Is
a
that to
basic.
say that, you know, parallel with the box, because you can flip it all the way over to the other end? Is that
No, I don't
not
think
a
that's going to be any
preferred
different,
Okay.
really. I mean, aside from maybe some polarization with the
Well,
main.
that's what I
antenna.
mean, just as far as direction goes.
I mean, but if you're in a moving situation, then it's probably, I mean,
Negligible.
yeah, it's probably going to be negligible whether you're up or you're fully, you know, if you're at 90 or at 180. I don't know that it's going to matter.
Have you tried
too
mounting
much.
these yet, Lance?
Yeah, I just Velcro them right onto the camera. Usually it goes onto
Okay.
the dumb side.
I was wondering if it would be worthwhile putting like a cheese plate or something on it, but
Well, you know,
Well-
most of the times my assistants have an MDR plate, right? And I'll just Velcro it to the
Right.
bottom of that. It's plenty.
cool.
So I don't know if you guys saw Jamie's post, or maybe it wasn't in main DIT-WIT, maybe it was in the networking group, but that Louis built a box. Louis.
Louis
Anyway.
Pascal Walsh?
No, Watt.
Ah,
He built he 3D printed a box, and then we've been talking about it for a while, is just making the Slate a better camera tool. So he 3D printed a box that's very reminiscent of a tear deck in a cage with the cheese plates, or not the cheese plates, with the Anton power plates, and put in a 12-volt regulation circuit, a little mini battery, and and then powered it via the I2C bus, which is what I did here. So on the Slate, it has like an I2C, like it's kind of like a GPIO ports on here, and it takes 3.3 volts, and you can actually power this thing that way. So built a box, but the power board is a bit of a problem, because he's just right now it's just using a linear regulator, which gets really hot. Which, I mean, it works and it's great. And he's building a few right now for in the field use. I'm working on building a circuit board for that design that's a switching power supply that will be a lot cooler, like temperature wise. So there's a lot less heat loss, or power loss is heat, regulating down from 12 volts to 5 volts to power to charge the battery, and then 3.3 volts to power the actual Slate. But it's a nice package, and he put it, you know, it's in an enclosure with real antennas off the top, and you know, a sandwich plate for Anton Bauer, so you can just pop it right in there. So the one he has right now is 3D printed, but looking at trying to get it fabricated in aluminum, you know. So
Is that posted somewhere? I'm not seeing it.
yeah, it's let me see. Oh, let's see. I wonder if it's oh yeah, it's probably here. That's why. This is the box, just a little 3D printed box, slate inside. There's the slate at the bottom.
That's clean.
It is. They put a little voltage readout on there. Switch, internal battery. So if we can clean up, so I'm thinking of a version of this that was maybe a little bit smaller and, you know, more power efficient. But
why does it have a limo on the side?
so if you did it without the, he printed the box so that it could be used with or without gold mount plates. So if you were just going to mount it more like you did
I see.
the tear deck on side of camera or something like that, I think was the idea. So because he's pulling 12 volts from the actual gold mount plate in through a feed through on the on the back of the box into the circuit. So
it's pretty.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
He'll probably make you some right now if you want.
The OE housing is not inside of that, right?
No. It's a circuit board, just like
right.
So you pull this out of there, and he used there are two mounting holes. So he just you probably can't see this shit, but there are just two main mounting holes on this circuit board. So he just mirrored where those were for the slates housing and mirrored them into this box right here.
That's pretty cool. Not sure about your antenna orientation right there, buddy.
Oh, these two right here.
No, yours on that circuit board you're holding. Not sure about that orientation.
Hello.
Don't feel confident.
Confidence is low. Yeah. Oh, you can actually see the.
Can you show that circuit diagram?
Oh, if you want to see the circuit, my friend. Hold on. Here's the.
That's cool.
Oh, that's weird that he put the. This is the GL.Inet's box. So let's see. So you can see the whole box in there. That doesn't have the internal components. Oh, but there's the slate box that he put in there. Oh, that's why he did that. Oh, that's neat. I'll show you circuit diagram.
So there's a battery in there?
Yeah, so there's like a little pouch, like a single cell lithium polymer battery that he put in. Yeah.
And like, what's your expected runtime for that one cell?
I think he was getting, let's see if Jamie said it here. I think he must have texted me, but I think he was getting like 15 minutes out of it. So more than enough for a hot swap.
Wow.
So this is a basic circuit diagram. A little FBD here, but so this is all you're in, and then 5-volt regulator. So he has, each of these is a separate component. So this is just like an IC linear regulator, 12 to 5 volts into the LiPo charger, and then he has the battery, and then he has a switch here for the actual router. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I just finished, let me see. Oh, you suck. I don't know why it just doesn't keep all my devices. It only lets me have 2 at a time. So, I mean, this is the actual schematic, but this is the board that I'm designing. So it's got the same charging circuit that it was just like an Adafruit board, but using the same controller, charge controller, but then this is the switching power supply, and also bridge rectifier. So it's reverse polarity protection. out to 5 volts. And right now I'm going out 5 volts, but I could down regulate this. So this goes out to the battery, and then this goes out to the slate, just like a little 2-pin header. It's a same functional thing, but I make it one small circuit board that maybe we can make the whole housing smaller, you know? But I don't know if this makes any sense to anybody, but yeah. So yeah. Oh, but that's the box. I think we can make it smaller aluminum, because right now, let's see, where does that sit? Oh, Luke had a question that I got to answer too. Yeah, that's not a ton of space right there, but I think there's enough that we could fit the power board in probably right about here, make it either shorter for a non-gold mount version or thinner maybe. Well, no, we can't make it much thinner because these are there, but anyhow, so Luke, I don't know. I have not, you want an AC power supply or you want like a DC plug for like DTAP? Luke, are you still there? Oh, he's not here. Luke Mullen wanted to know. I'll have to send it to him. He wanted an AC power supply for the Ruckus. Oh, Lance, you wanted to see the Ruckus lease time stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna power that up. I personally, who just tapped in?
I mean, just in short, could you just 999 it out and have an indefinite lease time? So,
Yeah, but
like
I
a
mean,
fake static, if you will.
If you want that, that's called a DHCP reservation, and I'll show you how you do that. Yeah, and I personally am a big fan of DHCP reservations because it gives you all the benefits of static without having to actually statically assign something. To actually go to a device and type in, you know, like cameras, for example. I mean, you get to a point where you have this camera from Keslo is always going to be this IP address if you wanted to, and it just shows up on your job and that's what its IP address is. But let's see, this is going to take a second to boot up, but yeah, that is actually pretty straightforward. I got to remember where it is, but yeah. I don't know who just joined, but let me know. We're kind of getting to the end of things. Let me know if there's something you wanted to see. Everybody's muted by default, so if you want to talk, unmute yourself. Hey Lance, did I buy a Thunder Bay Mini from you like forever ago?
I don't
bought
know.
one from somebody.
I don't think so.
I remember you had them on the job that you were out here on.
Right.
I was like, I like that, and I bought one. Like a year later, I can't remember who I bought it from. I thought it was you.
No, I still have my 3 or 4 sitting around somewhere. I should fucking sell them. I don't even use them anymore.
I mean, they're nice little enclosures still.
I went with the OWC NVMe card in the new Mac Pro, and that's been doing pretty good. It's about
Nice.
6 gigs a second, I think.
Whew, that's something.
Never use it all.
Right? Oh. Hey, buddy. That helps. There's motion on your camera.
Are you open core Big Sur on this?
I'm open core Catalina right now. I was about to update OpenCore to a 6.6 because to do this development work on OpenWRT, I have to be on Linux, and I never went for dual boot on Linux on this machine. And version 6.6 has a much nicer way to handle multi-boot. Take forever, man. There we go.
I had to give up the hack, man.
Yeah.
I got lured in by 12 Thunderbolt holes.
that's a few. All right, what am I doing here? Oh yeah. Okay, so let me connect here. Connected, no internet. Cool. All right. So client, so you can select a client. Is it here? Oh no, I know where it's going to be. I think it's DHCP assigned address, reserved address. So let's see, what do I have right now? So on my device, I'm just connected with my phone. It's 10.10.2.57. So I should be able to, can you do it here? Okay, I guess you have to create it here. That's a bit of a bummer. Oh, so here's your lease times. We'll start there first. But IP settings under admin and services, and then here's your lease time right here. So it looks like 2 weeks is as much as it lets you do. Did you see that, Lance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I let it ride for about 10 days. That would have sucked if we came in one morning and it didn't connect.
Well, but see, the other thing is that most routers these days, unless something else, unless it's gone for a long time, the device, it'll typically give the same address to the same device. Just by, it has a propensity to do that. I don't know what the algorithm is that makes that happen, but
like it's logged the MAC address and it gives
yeah,
it
it just says
preferred default IP.
Yeah, this is what we gave to it last time. Nobody else was using it, so let's just give it the same one. It's kind of like a little Newton. If it's there, let's leave it there. So, man, I wish that there was a way. I gotta see if there is a way, maybe. Interesting. It doesn't see that it's a phone. So I wonder if I mark favorite, if that changes it. I don't know why. It's interesting that it's not seeing the DHCP right now. That's completely weird. I don't know why it doesn't see it at all. But I mean, so if you wanted to just make sure that the same device was always the same, you could just come to DHCP reserved, create it, give it, and find out what the MAC address is, find the, and then decide what IP address you want it, and then give it a, a cam. You know, 10
That's
to
great,
10
dude.
to, you know,
Mhm.
25, and then there's the MAC address. So that's how you would do that without having to go to the camera and set a static IP address. Like, which I guess the minis can't do a static IP address on Wi-Fi. Oh, but you're on Ethernet anyway if you're using a Slate. But if you weren't and you were just going to try and use Ruckus and use built-in Wi-Fi, then yeah, I guess the mini doesn't do static IP on the built-in Wi-Fi. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else just joined or if those were people leaving, but people want to see anything. Oh, Philip. Hi, Philip.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I kind of went over a bunch of stuff already, but if you want to see anything or know anything, let me know.
So far, I'm just watching you guys. I don't have a Ruckus yet, but I just want to see how it all looks like and if I feel like switching over.
Well, this is the interface. I mean, I went through the main setup already, which is fairly straightforward. Just kind of a quick overview. The biggest thing is that when you go through the setup wizard, there's a section for meshing. If you want to use this as a mesh, make sure you click it. It'll bring up another like SSID and a passcode. You don't have to change any of that stuff for that. But this is the interface. This is where you create networks or manage the SSIDs of the networks. And then you can see your clients. You know, this is my cell phone connected right now. And then these are the physical radios. So there are two radios. One is the master, and it is connected. The mesh point is not currently connected. And then you can, you know, change what channel selections are being used, and either 2.4 or 5G. You know, that kind of stuff. It's pretty straightforward. The way, I mean, and you can set up a mesh point simply by plugging it into the PoE port of the master unit if you're powering it with AC.
Okay.
So if you see this guy, so there's a regular DC port right here. So you can power with power over Ethernet like I am now, or with the DC port.
All right.
But yeah.
So if I plug in the second or the third or the fifth mesh point, I just plug them in. It will auto configure itself, and then I can set it up wherever I want it.
Yeah. So you have the master unit, and if you're plugged into AC power, then you take from this unit's PoE port to another radio. It automatically adopts it and configures it. Then you can unplug it and then just plug it into power wherever else, and then it'll mesh.
Oh, perfect.
The other way to do it, which is the way I went over doing it, because I don't have AC power for these. I just have a PoE switch. Is that down in the settings here, you click on the mesh, and then you hit zero touch mesh, and then you add it by serial number. So on the back of the units, they have the serial number right here, and you just put in the serial number, and when it powers up, it sees it and good to go.
Okay.
Which for some reason it doesn't show it as approved, but it was definitely connected.
So, but I need this unleashed firmware for it, right?
Yeah. So I can show you guys. I mean, well, I don't have any that have the non-unleashed, but if you need a link to it, I can get it for you. You can get it from ComScope's website. If you just have to sign up for a free account, you know, just log in details. Let's see if I have that up. So this is kind of what their page looks like. And then you can go to downloads, and here's a bunch. This is all of their downloads. So if you just put in R710, so then you'll see here's the unleashed access point 200910. You know, this is the most recent one. So you click on that, and that's your download. The zone director. So zone director is the other one of the other two types of firmwares. it looks more, it's not like this. It's not kind of like this prettier interface. It has just like a menu system over on the left, you know, of, you know, different options, and then the display window in the middle. Kind of, I don't know what to equate it to, but
No.
but in there, there's an option to update the firmware, and then that's where you upload the firmware. I did note earlier, there's the one other type of controller, not the zone director. It disables the web interface entirely. So the only way to actually do the firmware upgrade is via SSH terminal command line.
Yeah.
So, which is not terrible. This page right here is actually pretty good at Ruckus, just on how to do it. You have to host the firmware file on your machine using a TFTP server. If you've done that before, then it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
But then you just, once you SSH into the unit, you do these commands right here, and pretty straightforward.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it does take, these do take quite a bit of time to boot, especially on the first boot. But yeah, once they're up, they're pretty great. So
That's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's been. I just have to find a few units here in my region of the world and play with them.
Yeah.
I find the boot time to be 1.5 red one.
Wow.
1.5 red one. I like that metric.
That's pretty long.
Yeah. Oh, I have it in here. So if it's not already shared, I'll share these. This should actually be there, and this should be in there too. Cool. I'll share this on the site. So this has, you know, GL.Inet stuff, Ruckus firmware. So that's the unleashed firmware. But yeah, I don't know. Anybody want to talk about any other networking shit? Just no, maybe so.
I have one question about Ruckus power adapters. I bought just like the AC, like you know, pin power, but I'm looking at a PoE injector. I'm not sure exactly. Like on Amazon, there's one that's $50 and there's one that's 14.
Are you powering? Do you want to power from AC or you want to power from DC for your PoE injector?
AC.
AC. So in that regard, so you want one that's 802.3. Is it AF or AT? I gotta look that up.
Do you know what the volt? Do you know what's the voltage that it is over PoE?
Well, so the specification for 802.3.AF or AT allows for both. Yes, Ben, it's being recorded. It allows for both 24 and 48 volts. So it's an auto negotiate 802.3. What this specifically wants, I don't know.
Right.
I was going to look here. Let's see, documents. Let's see if it has it in here. That was it? Okay, that was not really what I wanted it to be.
That's right. I can dig around and figure out.
Yeah, I mean, so it's, I did remember looking in the documentation. I found somewhere. I don't want the release notes. I want the hardware. Hmm. No. I found it somewhere. I'm trying to remember where I found it, but R710 power. Yep, because I spelled power right. Useless. Here we go. This might tell us. No.
That's all right.
You'll
I'll
find
do,
it, yeah.
I'll do some digging around.
All right. But yeah, I mean, you could use PoE, but I mean, the 12 volt port is pretty easy too. I know that, I mean, Jamie's been using the 12 volt ports for most stuff. It's easier to use a 12 volt port, certainly on the mesh units, especially if they're being battery powered, because it's just 12 volts, you know, as opposed to finding a PoE injector that will take 12 volts in the whole other box, whereas it's just a PTAP cable otherwise. So, yeah, all right. Good stuff. Anybody else want to chat about anything, or?
Thank you, Nate. Much appreciated.
You're welcome. And please always, you know, if you have questions about Slate or network shit or anything, just shoot me a DM and I'd be happy to answer if I'm available.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, dude.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.